Welcome to the 16th episode of Anycast. This is my podcast on YouTube where I talk about any topic that's going on, though primarily sports. Plenty of sports to get to. I want to start, though, with the rising COVID cases. I want to say I'm shocked, but I'm kind of not surprised in this case because you figured with colder weather, especially up here in the upper Midwest where I'm in, people are going to be hunkered down inside, and so that's the potential for the COVID to potentially spread. So I feel like we're getting to the point where we might be like back where we were in March to some degree, though not completely. But again, the advice that I continually give out is just continue to wear your mask, try to keep your social distance, wash your hands, and that should help at least reduce the spread. And also we had the town halls. We had dueling town halls, and what was supposed to be the second debate between Biden and Trump. Trump, as you probably remember, tested positive for the coronavirus. He since has made a recovery. Melania, from what I heard, also made a recovery too, so that's excellent news on that front. So Trump obviously was well enough to do a live second debate. Obviously, they wanted to do a virtual debate in light of what happened with the president because they didn't want to take any chances. Trump refused, and so we ended up with dueling town halls because Biden then decided, you know what, I'm just going to do another town hall, which is basically what the second debate was going to be themed around, was kind of a town hall type feel. So he did his, and then NBC decides on the same day as the Biden debate, same time actually, that they're going to do the Trump town hall. And for what it's worth, I watched a little bitty bit of the Trump town hall. I focused more on the Biden town hall, although, quite frankly, I feel like, for me at least, it's pointless because I've already submitted my absentee ballot and I already made my vote. So this is not going to sway me in any way, shape, or form. I still watch Biden just because he's the calmer and he's the more presidential feel of a candidate. But I watched little bitty bits of the Trump one, and for what it's worth, Savannah Guthrie, who I absolutely enjoy as a Today Show anchor, did a terrific job handling that town hall to the best of her abilities. And so I thought that was great. From what I heard and what I saw too, the highlight of the Trump town hall was we have a admirer. Let's put it that way. You can watch the clip on YouTube and you'll pretty much know what I'm talking about. There's some individual who, before proceeding to ask him the question, complimented him on his smile to the point where it sounded a little bit too much, don't you think? And you could tell Trump was blushing a little bit because I don't think that was a definite curveball. I don't think anybody could have seen that one coming. But that was no doubt the highlight of that town hall. Meanwhile, Biden continued to answer questions to the best of his abilities. He, again, dodged some questions, kind of like what Kamala Harris and Pence did in the vice presidential debate. But, yeah, once again, Trump's just, I don't know. He's just desperate at this point. And now he's doing rallies again. And he's doing it at the battleground states, which, oh, by the way, happened to see an uptick in case, my state included, in Wisconsin. Yeah, he was there and in Michigan yesterday. So he's clearly in desperation mode at this point with a little over 2 weeks to go in the election, before Election Day. Although you can still go out early and vote, as evidenced by some of the long lines that I've seen in the news. This is not good. This is almost like what we had to deal with in April. And so that's concerning because, again, we need to have the opportunity, especially for those who are more at risk for the virus, to send out their ballots safely. Whether it be absentee ballot, mail-in ballots, they have to have an opportunity to send out their votes without being forced to have to go out and risk their health and other people's health to go out and do their patriotic duty. Again, this has the feel of April again, and I feel like we need to get this under control at some point. So I'm hoping that we can. So that pretty much was it as far as politics. It was actually rather quiet for the most part. Other than that, I mean, that was really the big action this last week was the two dueling town halls. SNL has made its return, and their first 3 episodes, their cold opens, all 3 knockouts. If you've not seen Jim Carrey as Joe Biden, my God, does he nail him beautifully? And in this last one, he also portrayed Mr. Rogers and Bob Ross. The joke is Joe Biden is the calmer of the 2 candidates than Donald Trump, as evidenced by when they mimicked the Donald Trump town hall, which, by the way, Kate McKinnon did a phenomenal job as Savannah Guthrie. There was a little scene where you had a WrestleMania-type moment, again, symbolizing Trump's situation. So, again, I thought SNL was very clever in portraying that way. So I thought they did a terrific job there, and they've been on a roll since they've come back from the pandemic. So I think this is an encouraging sign that they're at least getting back and giving us some kind of normalcy. What's not been normal, or at least yesterday wasn't, was all the wacky upsets that unfolded in college football. Auburn losing to South Carolina. South Carolina had not beaten Auburn since 1933, so of course in a crazy year they're going to pull this upset up. Kentucky had not won at Tennessee since 1984. Not only beat the Vols, they spanked them 34-7, including 2 pick sixes. Because again, 2020, this has been that type of year. Florida State, double-digit underdogs, wiped the floor out of North Carolina in the first half. The Heels almost came back, but literally dropped the game at the end with all those drop passes, or else they would have pulled off the biggest comeback in college football history. What is normal in 2020 with college football is Bama continues to roll, although they got a little bit of a scare. Nick Saban actually tested positive for the virus. He was asymptomatic, which is perfect news on that perspective. I mean, obviously the best news is to test negative initially. He didn't. He tested positive, but he was asymptomatic. He then came back and got 3 consecutive days of negative tests, so he was able to coach the game against Georgia, which Bama proceeded to win going away in the fourth quarter. Georgia, I thought, did a good job hanging tough for 3 quarters in Tuscaloosa. But you know the Tide are just going to roll on over. And they're going to be steamrolling to remain number 2 in the rankings. You could argue they could potentially be number 1. I think at the very least they're going to steal some first-place votes because there's no way Clemson's losing the number 1 spot, even though they really haven't played anybody besides Miami. Did you see what they did to Georgia Tech? I know Georgia Tech's not a great team, and yes, they did beat the Noles, but 73-7, it's like they knew that Georgia and Bama rather were playing in a 2 versus 3 tilt, and the winner could make an argument to leapfrog Clemson for number 1. So they will go on and pull a 73-7 spanker. They have been the most consistent team, but the problem is they haven't played anybody yet, other than Miami. So you can't really judge Clemson yet. And it looks like it's going to be them and the rest of the conference again. Notre Dame, again, this year they're playing an ACC schedule so they can play football games, struggled to beat Louisville. And quite frankly, if you have to struggle to beat Louisville, and the week before you had to struggle against the Noles, what makes you think you're going to beat teams like the Canes and the Tigers, who are clearly the lead packs in the ACC, which once again looks weak? And so, yeah, I think it's a good thing the Big Ten's coming back this week, because now we get a chance to see the Buckeyes. We get to see Penn State. Michigan and Minnesota are the Saturday night game. And for the second time, Minneapolis will be hosting game day. Now, I know there's a lot of you in Cincinnati and SMU land that are thinking, well, wait a minute, why not us? Well, the Big Ten is a bigger conference. And in case you haven't been paying attention this year, game day has been going to the site of the Saturday night football game that they're televising because they don't want Herbie Kirkherbstreit to be doing a lot of traveling and risk catching the virus. He already once this year has had to take a precautionary measure. He didn't test positive, but he was in close contact with someone who did. And so he had to take the precautionary measure. This is why. They don't want him risking getting the virus and potentially spreading it to anybody else. And so, complain all you want, SMU fans. I totally understand it. But the Big Ten is a bigger conference, and they're making their debut this week. And for those who are complaining, oh, how come the Buckeyes aren't hosting game day? You realize Fox is showing that game, and Fox Big Noon Saturday, which is their version of game day, is live in Columbus. Go watch their channel if you want to see that one. But yeah, it'll be nice to see the Big Ten back this upcoming week, and we'll see how all those teams do. Now, moving on to the NFL. First, let's talk about my fantasy football team. briefly. Started at 4-0, best 4-game start of my career in fantasy football. Did lose a tough one to my brother this last week, and now I got one of my buddies this week for a critical game. But I remain tied atop the standings, still number one with a head-to-head win over the other person that I'm tied with, whose only setback was in the opener to me. But doing really good, 4-1. Of course, my loss came the week the Packers were on a bye. They're coming back and facing Tom Brady and the Bucs in an epic battle of QBs who are going to Canton at one point, in one time, shape, or form. Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady. This is only the third time these two have hooked up against each other, and by golly, is it going to be a good one. Seattle 5-0, basically winning with Russell Wilson. And there's a lot of debate going on about that game against the Vikings. In fact, I got into a nice little argument with my brother about this one. He thinks the Vikings did the right thing. Their execution just wasn't great. My argument is, while that's great and that could win you the game, remember who you're dealing with. You're dealing with Russell Wilson. You know he's going to find a way to win this game. His argument is, well, you're going to lose anyways in overtime. But at least you go into overtime is my argument. Because if you kick the field goal, worst case scenario is Wilson goes down the field and gets a touchdown. Now he needs to get a 2-pointer to tie the game. They missed it. So basically, the Vikings could have won the game had they kicked the field goal. Think of it that way. And so, of course, they go for it. They don't convert. The Seahawks go down, get a touchdown, win the game, and the Viking season is a crapshoot at this point. Sorry, Minnesota fans. At least the Gophers are coming back this week, so you got them. But, again, that to my point is, you force overtime. Because remember, Seattle does not have fans at their stadium yet, so you don't have the 12th man impact that you would have in past years. You can go in overtime and beat the Seahawks potentially. You never know. They could still lose, but they still have a chance to win it at that point. So you make the argument. Tell me what you think in the comments section on YouTube, and we'll let that debate rage on. But another argument I want to make out of that game is that Russell Wilson is without a doubt the leading candidate for most valuable player. Emphasis on valuable. A lot of people forget about the V portion of MVP. Valuable. The value that player brings to their team. You obviously have to have the numbers like a Patrick Mahomes or a Lamar Jackson. But look what Russell Wilson has done. He has put up those numbers, and he doesn't have a defense, and he doesn't have much of a team around him. I mean, he's just throwing the ball at will, being Russell Wilson, and look what that's done. He's gotten the Seahawks to 5-0. I don't think Seattle's undefeated without Russell Wilson. I think that pretty much stakes my argument that he should be the MVP. Again, if you think it should be someone else, please, by all means, leave a comment in the YouTube section, in the comment section of the video once that goes up. So, I think Russell Wilson's done a heck of a job, and he deserves to get an MVP. What I can't believe is he's never had a vote for MVP. That's going to change this year. He should get at least a vote, and I think he should win MVP right now. But again, we're a quarter of the way through the season. We'll see how that rolls along. But could you ever have imagined that the last 4 undefeated teams through 5 weeks of the season would be the Titans, the Steelers, the Packers, and the Seahawks? I think of the 4 teams, Green Bay seemed the most likely to be undefeated at this point of the season. Seattle, maybe. Pittsburgh, maybe. Tennessee, maybe. This is just unbelievable how all these teams have been doing well at this point of the season. Kansas City and Baltimore are always going to be up there. But this year with the new playoff format, it's important to get that top seed because you're the only team that gets a first-round bye. The number 2 seed gets stuck in the wild card round this year. So that gives you a more sense of urgency to try to get that 1 seed. So we shall see how that unfolds. And the Bears are 4-1. I'm sorry. The Bears are the most overrated 4-1 team in the NFL. They had to come back to beat the Lions and the Falcons, 2 hapless teams that are going nowhere, and one of those teams is winless and fired their coach and GM this past week. And I'm not talking about Detroit, although they should fire their coach because they've done nothing since Patricia took over. And then you lost to the Colts. I mean, in your offense, it was meh. And then you managed to pull a squeaker out against Brady and the Bucs because Tom Brady forgot what down it was. Kind of like a game 30 years ago between the Buffaloes of Colorado and the Tigers of Mizzou, infamously known as the fifth down game. Yeah, the Bears are not a great team. They may be 4-1. They may think they have a chance to make a run at the playoffs. They're not doing anything. They're not. Call me when you beat the Packers and the Seahawks, and then we'll talk. And so there's that. And then we get to baseball. And by golly, have they done a miraculous job making sure that we have not had any positive cases? We have not had any new COVID cases in the MLB in over a month. And that's amazing. And it shows you, now that they've gone into the bubble, look what's happened. This is what the NFL needs to do. This is because, again, with all the craziness that's unfolded with the NFL, with all the schedule changes and whatnot, you knew this was going to be a problem. So look what the MLB did. They finally came to their senses and realized, hey, the postseason needs to be in a bubble. No new cases. Kudos to the MLB for stepping up and eventually doing the right thing. And congratulations to the Tampa Bay Rays. You did me and Minnesotans proud by beating those Astros who do not deserve to make the World Series with a sub-500 record. Tampa was the best team in the American League all season long, and they deserved to win the pennant, and they made it. And no one could be more happier than Dickie V. If you've seen his posts on Twitter, you will enjoy him. He is an energetically fun guy to be around, even though I've never been around him. But he's fun to follow on Twitter. So congratulations to the Rays. I wish you best of luck in the World Series. Tonight we got Game 7 between Atlanta and the Dodgers. Will the Dodgers finally get over the hump? Or will we get the Braves in the World Series for the first time this century? That should be an exciting game, and we'll see who gets Tampa in the World Series. But regardless, we will have a new champion. The Braves have not won the World Series since 95. The Dodgers, obviously, you know their story. They haven't won it since 88. And the Rays, this is only their second World Series appearance ever. And did you notice something? Both times they made the World Series, they did it by winning Game 7 by 2 runs against the defending AL champions. Yeah, not making this stuff up, people. Go look at your research and you'll believe me. So that'll be interesting. If the Braves make the World Series, and again, I'm pretty much done with baseball because, Twins, done. This was a disaster, disappointing. But if I got to root for someone in the World Series, if it's the Braves, I just want a good series. I don't care who wins. I'll be happy either way. If the Dodgers win, I will root for the Rays, but I will be okay if the Dodgers win it. Sort of. So there's that. So, one more item of business. Congratulations to the Los Angeles Lakers. I am so glad you won the title. You were my sentimental choice after Kobe tragically passed away. Kobe, I hope you watch the finals up there. This title is for you. Go get him in heaven, Black Mamba. So congratulations to LeBron and Anthony Davis on their title. They did a tremendous job dealing with adversity all season long, and the team that dealt with adversity the best in the bubble was going to win it all. That was the Lakers. But congratulations to the Heat as well. They had one heck of a run to get to the NBA Finals, and then pushing the Lakers to 6 games shows the kind of guts and determination that they got. And Spoelstra is one hell of a coach. He is one of the best coaches actively in the NBA right now, and he is an underrated coach. He doesn't get the props that he deserves because he won his titles with Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, Chris Bosh. Look what he did with just Jimmy Butler and a supporting cast around him. They got to the NBA Finals and pushed the heavily favored Lakers to 6 games. I think this is a team that's going to be sticking around for years to come, so I would watch out for the Miami Heat. They're going to be a tough out in the East for years to come as long as Butler is happy. So that pretty much covers it for the week. I hope you guys have a good, safe week. And definitely go out, and if you're able to, go out and vote. Do it safely, obviously, and we'll see you next time. Take care.